Person for the Jacob Gedletlekisa Zuma Foundation.
Yes, indeed, Desiree, thanks very much. And without wasting much time, let's bring in now Mr. Mzwanele Manyi on behalf of the Jacob Zuma Foundation, just to get your reaction, Mr. Manyi, to today's judgment.
Yeah, we are very disappointed, but not surprised. The issue of travesty of justice when it comes to President Zuma has become a norm in this country. President Zuma continues not to enjoy justice in this country, and today's irrational judgment is an example of the kind of injustice that President Zuma continues to suffer.
Mr. Manyi, what would then be the next step? Have you decided, has the former president and his legal team decided what would be the next step? Are you then going to seek a review of this judgment?
The lawyers are going to still apply their minds, read this judgment and advise properly. But based on the summary judgment that has been given here, there's enough for the foundation to see that there's prima facie case for an appeal to be made. So in fact, we as the foundation are very clear on this matter that we'll be advising President Zuma to appeal this judgment. It's very irrational on two counts. Based on what the judge has said today. The first thing is that this judge makes reference to the judgment that had given to the order on the order that had given the last time here. On the order that had given was that the NPA can examine President Zuma. He had given the order that the medical team of President Zuma can give oral judgment, but all of that was hinged on the fact that there was going to be a medical report that was going to be submitted, as it were. And then he used two words to buttress the issue of the NPA examining President Zuma and the oral judgment. He said, if necessary. So basically, if that report had no qualms from all sides, there would have been no need for everything else. Today, he has forgotten that he has said that. Today he says, no, I didn't put any condition on that. Yet the judgment, it's very clear, the order that he gave had if necessary. Then we must unpack what was that if necessary supposed to talk to. Because in our view, it talks to that examination. Was it necessary? That oral, was it necessary? Having had the report that would have been submitted, that's the first thing. Secondly, he makes some very spurious remark. He says the issue about the title to prosecute should not be understood on the wider context. So in other words, he reduces the issue of title to prosecute to basically one's LLB and so on. So if you've got an LLB, that's fine. The fact that you've got a conduct that is questionable, this judge decides to put that under the carpet. The fact that we've got a person here that even his own colleagues at the NPA had made all kinds of damning submissions on affidavit about him, this judge sweeps it under the carpet. So what we're sitting with here and now, facing the 11th of April, was sitting here with a prosecutor that is clouded with criminal allegations, with a criminal case that must prosecute President Zuma. So why is it that we have a thing like this? So we're sitting here with a tree that is poisoned but was expected to eat its fruit. It cannot be. So the hands of the NPA are dirty. The downer as part of the NPA, his hands are all dirty, and this should not be entrusted with this case. This is our position.
I'll leave the judge's findings to the judge, Mr. Manyi, but just to come back to the point that you raised around the examination of former President Jacob Zuma and the subsequent medical report, were you ready? Was he ready for the doctors that would have been appointed by the NPA to conduct that examination? Because I do remember that at some point you were concerned about that, saying that the former president is under the care of the state, and so if the NPA were then to bring in its own doctors, would that mean that the state does not trust the state? And I think those are the words that you used.
Yeah, indeed. But even before that, the issue was at the time that they clandestinely worked behind the scenes to try and examine President Zuma. In our view, that was premature because the if necessary bit had not been covered, because what needed to have happened first was a submission of the report. If that report that was submitted had satisfied all parties, there would be no need to do anything else. Everything else becomes an issue if the report was challenged, as it were. So to go and do the examination before you see, even if the report is maybe even in your favor, it would have been in a rational examination, not trying to prove. So this is why we hold the view that the judge has made a U-turn, because all those examinations, all those oral representations were if necessary. So the if necessary part had not been ticked. And today the judge forgets that, makes a U-turn and says, no, I never set any conditions. We dispute that. And we think as part of the appeal, that's one of the points that the lawyers must make.
The judge didn't seem to be satisfied with the 14 arguments that had been raised, Mr. Manyi, by former President's defense team. In fact, he was saying that they were largely based on speculation and not on facts. And again, my second question to that would be the timing. Some legal experts have said possibly the timing of when that the special plea application was filed should have waited until this trial had started. Then former President Jacob Zuma could then have lodged this application. What would you say to that?
No. All the applications were done as and when it was time to do them. So we dispute that. Right. It's just people that are just busy kicking for touch. They were raised appropriately at the right time. So we dispute that.
Okay. So you're saying now the lawyers are going to sit down, read the judgment thoroughly. Of course, today it was just a summary of quite a lengthy judgment that Judge Kun has said will of course be provided to the teams, and then after you then will decide what will be the next step.
As they do that, they already have a recommendation from the foundation to go. They will be reading that with a view to appeal. It's not just some innocent reading. Yeah. It's going to be a reading with a view to appeal, because the summary that has been given will probably summarizes the substance. So the substance can be very different from this irrational summary. So based on the summary, the only thing that they'll be looking for in that judgment are the clear points to reference. But the thrust of our approach, our attitude, our posture to the matter is that of appealing this irrational judgment.
Before I let you go, Mr. Manyi, any update with regards to the criminal charges that were laid by a former president last week? Has he received any update from the NPA or the police in the province?
No, nothing so far, but usually our justice system is too slow, and usually when it's President Zuma, things don't work. So we hope that things are going to work. We hope that justice will prevail. We hope that those criminal charges are going to stick, because there it's almost very clear. They've made in their own admission in the affidavit, Downer and them, that they've done this leakage. And it's quite interesting that the judge in his summary decided to just keep quiet about that. That again is another peculiarity, to say President Zuma and justice in this country are never in the same room.
Mr. Mzwanele Manyi, thank you so much for your time. The spokesperson of the Jacob Zuma Foundation, there it is, Mr. Mzwanele Manyi, clearly not happy with the decision by the judge here today, in saying that from the foundation, they are going to be insisting that the former President Jacob Zuma's defense team take this matter on review. And of course, there is also the other matter of the criminal case that has been opened by the former president against Advocate Billy Downer, where he alleges the Advocate Billy Downer of misconduct relating to the leaking of confidential information in relation to the former president's health. So we'll have to wait and see. Desiree, as we were saying earlier on, when we were speaking to our legal expert, that it's still going to be a long road. So come the 11th of April, even before that, we'll have to wait and see whether or not indeed former president's team will then take that matter up on review. That's it from the Pietermaritzburg High Court. Desiree, back to you in studio.
Thank you so much, Ayanda. Let's just recap